I'll let you know when it's ready.
Okay.
Okay, we're live.
Okay, welcome to the Suburban Chicago Apple Users Group. We are a group of over 100 individuals in the Chicagoland area. We exchange best practices, tips, and offer each other technology technology tips on how to use Apple technology. We are very passionate about our Apple technology. We also make use of saving money on different technology. You can join us too by joining us online at myscau.org. Just want to remind everyone that as we go through our presentations today, please keep your microphone muted if you're not talking. If you have a question, please place your question into the chat and it will be addressed, or we'll call you to unmute at that time. Up next, we're going to talk about the new Macs. Apple introduced some new Macs, and also we're going to talk about Big Sur. This presentation will be done by Bob Fairbairn. Let me tell you guys about Bob Fairbairn. He is the guy behind the curtain who has been our past vice president and moderator behind the curtain, making sure that everything works right on our Zoom calls here, our presentations. He is a technology consultant. He's a photographer. He's an audiophile, and he's an all-around good guy. So right now, I'll turn it over to Bob Fairbairn to talk to us about Big Sur and the new Apple Macs. Go ahead, Bob.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, George, for that introduction. I'm cheating today. I'm going to let Apple help me with the presentations. How about that?
Okay. That's why we have access to it.
Yes. So let me flip this over here. So I'm looking at the screen. So today, I want to talk a little bit about Apple's new Macs and the M1 processor system that's in those new Macs. And we're going to highlight this following probably the most popular Mac in Apple's lineup. I remember actually purchasing the first MacBook Air with the little fold down door that let you access the USB port. And it was just a fabulously amazing little device. And so the new MacBook Air looks a whole lot like the old MacBook Air because there is absolutely no difference on the outside. But on the inside, oh my goodness. They kicked out the incumbent and made their own. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the M1 because that is the real important change here. Is Apple has moved from Intel to their own silicon. And I'm going to try and define this a little bit better than Apple did on their own. So what they have done is they have made a hero sandwich, okay? And that hero sandwich has a whole bunch of layers in it. And we're going to kind of walk through those layers. So at the very high end, in the normal terms of computing that we think about, we talk about multiprocessor or multi-core. So this processor is 8 cores. We talk about graphics processing unit. There are 18 GPUs cores inside of this processor. And there's something that's new that is doing a lot of things for us that's really interesting, and it's the neural engine, and there's a 16-core neural engine in it. And their other really big highlight is power efficiency. So this is based on ARM technology, which is a different microprocessor instruction set from Intel that was in there before. And the guts of it are kind of interesting. So it is one of the most advanced technology processes for building microprocessors and associated equipment. And it's down to 5 nanometers. And if you go try and get a size of 5 nanometers, you'll figure out how small it is. Apple, of course, has been building their own processors for almost a decade, or just at a decade now, in iPhone and iPad and Apple Watch and all of that. And this is a superset Okay, so the A14 in your fancy new iPad Air has just right around 12 billion transistors. This has 16 billion transistors in it. Now, that doesn't mean a lot. Those are just huge, huge numbers. But what they have done is advance their technology and combine the technology of the hardware and the operating system to produce a really dense processor system. And that's why we call it a system on a chip, because everything is in the SoC. So there's multiple discrete chips in there. There's the RAM and all of the controllers and everything down in this advanced packaging process. Now, this is the worst M1 you will ever buy. It's also the first. Apple will continue to advance this technology over time. They've said that over and over and over again. And there's a whole bunch of things that are really important, and we're going to kind of go over them a little bit more quickly here. So the first part is 8 cores of CPU, and they divide that into 2 different kinds. One that runs fast and gets things done really, really quickly, and the other one just kind of sits there in the background and cranks along. And so that's their efficiency cores and their performance cores, and efficiency cores. All right. And this is the big deal. This is the most important part, and it's along with the whole architecture, is unifying the memory. So it used to be that you used to have graphics memory, CPU memory, and it was all separated. So what their controllers and system have done is combined all that architecture together, and with the software on Mac OS and iOS and so forth, it allows the different parts of the computing system to access it more directly, not copy stuff back and forth, not move it around. It all works in place, and that dramatically improves the performance of the system. Now, since it's all on this single chip, you got 2 choices: 8 gig and 16 gig in this system design. That's all you got. 99% of people, I would say, who buy a MacBook Air probably buy an 8 gig. A few people are going to buy the 16 gig. I don't know today whether or not you actually need the 16 gig, but Mac OS runs really, really well in 8 gig. Now, depending upon what you're doing, the 16 might be important. The other thing that they've done separately is they've really improved their SSDs. They are using a different architecture for connecting the SSDs to the system, and we'll kind of ignore that a little bit. It's basically twice as fast. So if you look at these read-write speeds, are just absolutely phenomenal at 3 gigabytes. That is amazing. So a typical spinning hard drive or SSD that is on the old style SATA interface, SATA, where you plug the drive into your inside of your computer, is 400 to 600 meg, 4 to 600 gig, and it's just so this is many, many times faster. Now they have standard standard SSD sizes here. 256 and 512 are the standard, configurable up to 2 terabytes. So that's more than enough for most people, but again, it's a decision that you're going to have to make up front with these new computers. And the MacBook Air is now fanless. Now, if you remember, we used to have this little 12-inch MacBook that was also fanless, and I loved it to death because it was fanless, and it was just a little bit slow. Okay, it wasn't that fast, and it throttled pretty badly sometimes. But doggone it, it was a nice little Mac, and it did a job. And they've since put that to bed, and they've made their biggest selling Mac, which is the MacBook Air, with the M1, and made it fanless, and that's absolutely fabulous. The thing that I think with all this noise about that is one of the most important things is the longest battery life. And you can read all of Apple's numbers. The battery life on these is just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, this is iPad-like, iPhone-like battery life out of a MacBook. It is amazing, amazing, amazing. So what I want to do now is kind of take a quick little jump over to software in just a second. George, I haven't been looking. Were there any questions or anything?
No questions.
Sir, we have no questions.
Okay, good. So let's just do a quick overview. Since we've done this a little bit before, we're going to do a quick overview of macOS Big Sur, and we'll talk about that operating system. So the operating system was finally released the other day after their presentation, and in one picture, this kind of describes it a little bit. You can see the changes in look. If you look at your desktop, if you're not running Big Sur, and you look at this desktop, there's a bunch of things that you're going to notice, but just by looking. One of the ones that I absolutely love is Control Center. 2 clicks and I'm on Do Not Disturb. I can control my Wi-Fi, my display, my volume, everything. It's very I won't say iPad-esque, but yeah, it's sort of iPad or iPhone-esque, but it really is a marvelous, marvelous improvement. They've basically now unified the messages applications between all the operating systems. They're not perfect yet, but they're really close. The changes in Safari are phenomenal. It is significantly faster. It has several new privacy protections, whole bunch of things to help out with that. It's a little bit cleaner user interface than the last version of Safari. And the other really big changes they did is a significant improvements in maps and a whole bunch of new features in maps. We're not going to get into those today, but it's a really nicely improved mapping system. And there's some neat new features for you to explore in there when you get upgraded. So you can see something here, which is just how the icons have changed, and it's subtle. It looks different, and it's not quite skeuomorphic, but it is maybe a little bit more skeuomorphic. But they've made it brighter and lighter and easier to see, and just really have sort of lifted the OS visually by separating items a little bit more, using a little bit more white space, reducing the density a little bit, and it makes using the operating system, I think, a lot easier. It really does improve the overall speed and functionality of using the OS. And they've also made some other improvements that helps that out a lot. So, but what we're really here to talk about is what's happened with the new MacBook Airs and the other 2 Macs they announced. We'll talk about those in just a little bit. But you're going to see these little icons that are Apple loves icons. And so the little Feng Shui, whatever you call that swirly icon there, is the emergence of operating system apps for Mac OS that both run on Windows, or both run on Windows. No, they don't run on Windows. That both run on Intel and run on Apple M1, Apple Silicon. And so there's actually 2 binaries that you can merge. You can, as a developer, build a binary which does both just by basically flipping a switch. And so your app can be delivered to anyone with an Intel Mac or an M1 based Mac very, very easily. For people who buy the M1 Macs, there is another little system in there, and it's maybe not so little. It maybe is a little bigger than you think it is, called Rosetta 2. Now, some of us remember the original Rosetta, which is an interpolation system that interpreted applications from other architectures in real time as the application was running. Apple flipped it around a little bit now, and they translate it when the application is installed. So the application gets translated one time, so it performs at its best speed when it's running. And as a matter of fact, there's some people who have shown this already, some applications that use native calls into the operating system, those do not have to be translated. And graphics applications, for instance, that runs in Metal, which is Apple's new graphics manipulation for applications to make things move a lot quicker. Those applications can actually be faster. And I have seen that in real time working. It's really pretty amazing. The other thing that they've brought, and it's sort of, it's the beginnings of something really interesting. I have not had time to play with it yet that much, and that is the ability to run iOS apps, both iPad and iPhone apps on the Mac. It is the same core architecture, the same operating system software available underneath, and you can literally just run an app. Now, if that app uses things that are not in the Mac, so they didn't install accelerometers, there's not a GPS in there, et cetera, et cetera. If those kinds of apps are needing that kind of stuff, then they will not function appropriately. But right now there's a, I won't say it a trend, but there's some worry in the developer land, and a bunch of developers have disabled their apps from running on the Mac, which they can do. There's a bunch that do, but some people don't want their apps running on the Mac, and a developer can turn that off turn that off so it doesn't run. And installing these is a little bit odd. You use the Mac App Store. Seems really weird to go to the Mac App Store to get an iPad app, but that's what you do. Use the Mac App Store to get an iPad app. So that actually works, and is going to be a really powerful tool going forward. I think we're just at the beginning of what that's going to do for us over time. And then there's some other things that Apple has done to allow developers to work their way across to build apps that work on all the Apple platforms. And Apple's doing more and more to help developers out. I think there's a little bit of tension there off and on with pricing and all of the stuff for Apple, getting their cut, shall we say, of prices due to the services they provide. So it's interesting. One of the things that I always like to talk about in the Mac, and this slide seems out of order, but it just happened to be where it is the security on these Macs. And by building this hardware the way they've done it, they bring all of the advantages of iPads and iPhones. So they've really upped the security quite a bit with this, the secure enclave, secure boot, and automatic encryption. And everything is just automatically encrypted and rest inside of the operating system. So that is huge. I've always felt that if someone steals my iPhone, basically, or I lose my iPhone, I don't have to worry about it. It's just gone, other than the money. Just go buy another one, bring myself back up. Everything will be fine as long as I'm using the tools to keep myself backed up. I'm starting to feel that way a little bit more with these Macs. It's absolutely fascinating. So here's good and bad news. That's the exact same hardware, and in our current mode of operating, they did not improve the webcams. And if you look at how thin the lid of, say, a MacBook Air or a MacBook is, there's just not a lot of room to get a bigger and better camera in there. And so the camera is the same. They've done some improvements with the image signal processor, which is now available on the Macs, so that it helps it some. It's not dramatic, but it does help it some. And I think it's a good balance in getting the products to market versus improving the product incrementally. So it would be nice to have a better webcam. I'm not using a webcam most of the time here. I'm using a professional camera right now for my web viewing. The other thing that they did is they improved the display. Again, it's a Retina display, same basic resolution. The thing that is super important to me as a photographer is the P3 wide color gamut. So the color gamut is there. It's not, the fancy HDR stuff of the $6,000 display that Apple sells, but this is $1,000 laptop. And of course it's got True Tone. So it brings those technologies together and really makes a mighty fine piece of visual presentation here. So here's what everybody is squawking about, okay? They're squawking about that there's only 2 ports. Well, there's only been 2 ports on a MacBook for basically quite a while. Oh, yes, there is a headphone jack. At least I have to check. Yes, there's a headphone jack. Anyway, so USB-C connector. On that USB-C connector is a Thunderbolt 3, we'll call it hardware software overlay, and USB 4 standard USB operations. So what can you do with that? Well, you can power the MacBook. You can have DisplayPort output. You can have HDMI output. You can have VGA output. You have Thunderbolt 3 for data, which is 4 gigabits per second, or 40, excuse me. And as an example, this Thunderbolt USB enclosure drive, Samsung drive, is almost as fast, not quite as fast as the internal drives on the new MacBooks, and it connects up with a Thunderbolt cable. So I imaged a Mac on that using Time Machine, and then I did a migration, not including my photos library, in 9 minutes from one Mac to the MacBook Air. So these speeds are absolutely phenomenal. So here's the summary of what the MacBook Air is. Apple M1, 16 gig, 2 terabytes, 18 hours of battery life. It's amazing. Up to 2 terabytes of SSD. Improved camera performance is a nice way of stating it. It's a little bit better. The Retina display is better. It's the quote good Magic Keyboard with Touch ID. And by the way, the Touch ID seems to work better than I've noticed before. A lot of times when your hands were wet or you've washed your hands or done the dishes, it seems to actually work better than it did before. I'm not 100% sure, but it feels that way. And they've brought the new Wi-Fi standard, Wi-Fi 6. So that's just kind of a quick overview of what is going on inside of the MacBook Air. And let me real quick
for a second here, Bob. We actually have a couple of questions in the chat.
Okay.
One question is about, can you tell a little bit between the MacBook Air versus the MacBook Pro? They seem to be pretty similar, but the person's always bought a Pro and they're like, well, should they actually get an Air? What's the difference between?
Okay, I wanted to start at the bottom and then we'll kind of talk about that a little bit. So Apple has released one processor, and that processor is the M1. And that M1 has two variants, 16 gig of RAM and 8 gig of RAM. And that's it. There's no difference between the three machines that they've released. So the MacBook Air is a fanless M1. The MacBook Pro, the new M1 MacBook Pro, has an active cooling system, as they call it, which has a fan. And the base model entry-level Mac Mini also has a fan. Those two processors in those other two Macs, the MacBook Pro and the Mini, are the same. But by actively cooling them, the processors can run hotter and run faster, longer. So that's absolutely the major difference in the processor. Now, the MacBook Pro, what they call it, the MacBook Escape, I think was one of the crazy names that someone called it. That MacBook Pro has some other features that are interesting. So it has improved speakers, it has improved microphones. That's their studio quality mic, and it does make a difference for conversations on Zoom, etc. And it sounds better. All right. It also has a touch bar. Now, I really like the touch bar. I think the touch bar is a fascinating piece of hardware software, and there's some controversy whether it's usable or not. I think it's a powerful tool that we haven't made as good a use out of as we could. And the other thing is that the display on the MacBook Pro is 100 nits brighter. So 400 versus 300, if I remember right. So it's a little bit brighter. So it has a bunch of additional features, and it's $300. I think it's $300 more. So basically inside, the big difference is active cooling and those additional features around it. Now, do you need it? I can't tell you. I can't tell you if you need it or not. Okay. It's a big experiment for most of us. All right. And I'm living that experiment right now. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. Anybody else with questions?
Elda, if you could unmute, and did that answer your question that you put in?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Elda. Hi. Good morning.
Yeah, I think that answers my question. I do a lot of photo stuff. I do some video editing. Those are the main things I'm concerned about. But my son has an older Air, and he says, it's fine. He does all that stuff too. So
Well, okay. So we're going to talk about that just a little bit more. I just want to make sure we
Okay.
have any other questions. But depending upon what are you using for your photo and video editing, Elda?
I use GIMP mostly because it's
Okay.
free.
Uh-huh.
And Movie for the video.
iMovie. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The iMovie performance on the M1 is absolutely amazing. So
Yeah.
it's
and the-
really pretty wild. So yeah.
And the other thing I need is more storage because I've got a 500 gigabyte machine and I'm like 400 gigabytes because I have so many picture scans.
It's amazing how fast we fill up the corners of everything, whether it's the kitchen drawer or our closets or our digital life.
Yeah. So it seems like both of them go up to a terabyte. I think
2
that's where
terabytes actually.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
all right.
and you can also talk about offloading at some point if you want. There's some ways to offload. We'll talk about that just a little bit. So
Okay.
because there's some photo editing tools that are pretty cool, but GIMP is a really powerful piece of software. Yes, it's nice, and the price is right.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And we also have Frank Savatini. Frank, if you could unmute and ask your question.
Sure. Let me ask you, Bob, doesn't the ability to have the iPad apps on the Mac create an either-or situation for customers that are deciding between a MacBook Air or an iPad Pro? Are they going to compete with each other because of that scenario?
Not yet. I wouldn't say yet. Tomorrow, yeah, and I mean, figuratively tomorrow. I think it does to a certain extent. So as an example, since I have been using this M1 MacBook Air that I'm presenting to you on right now, I've set my iPad aside, my 12.9-inch iPad aside. I have not used it. Okay, I mean a little bit, but just because it happened to be in the room and the MacBook was plugged in down here. So that I think that there is a competitive nature that is amongst all of Apple's products to a certain extent, right? Do you need, when you've got an iPhone 12 Pro Max, right? The iPhone with the dramatically improved size of the screen, do you need an iPad? Okay.
Which I have.
Yeah, so I went mini, all right? iPhone 12 mini. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm playing with right now, and this thing's phenomenal. Anyway, there's this tear, the tear in the fabric of time, Doctor Who, something, TARDIS, whatever. The iPad is such a direct personal experience, even more so. The way you touch things, the way the pencil works, the way you hold it, you don't get that experience with a laptop or a desktop. But yet then you have this indirect manipulation, the keyboard and mouse, and that familiarity of decades of that sort of operations that we do now. The touch native people like my grandkids and so forth, they're going to be poking at that screen because it's not touch. Is it eventually going to be touch? Apple says no. We say yes. We'll see what happens. But I think that eventually these operating systems will figure out what the right balance is between that. So right now, it's sort of, if I've got an M1 MacBook Air, do I need an iPad? If I've got a big iPhone, do I need an iPad? And so does that put the iPad in the middle? I don't know. I maybe a little bit. The user interface and the way you operate iPad apps is a little bit odd when you considering you're used to touching that screen, and they've made some accommodations for that, but it's pretty good. So yes, I agree with you. It is a conundrum.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, we also have Dom asking about Thunderbolt technology. Dom, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
My question is, every year we get a new Thunderbolt number, and it's starting to get a little crazy with all the numbers, what we can do with Thunderbolt 3. I mean, I probably have, on my 15-inch MacBook Pro from 2013, it's early 2013. I think it has one of the original #1 Thunderbolt designated numbers, like 1, but now they're up to what, 3? And what what can travel? What do we need when we go to Best Buy for a Thunderbolt cable? Will the new Thunderbolt cables, well, I guess, are backward compatible? So
Yeah,
what is
backward.
the numbers on these things?
Thunderbolt is an interesting one. Now, let me see if my
Yeah, they have
if
the
my
same-
camera will focus here on this. Oh, I don't have it. I don't have it set in the right mode. This is I don't have product mode set. So you can see this is a Thunderbolt cable, and you can barely see there's a little 3 underneath there. So, and actually, it's actually a bigger conundrum because of USB-C. So, hey, this is a USB-C cable, and that connector is exactly the same. So Thunderbolt 3 has been with us for a couple of 3 years now already. So Thunderbolt 3 is kind of still the standard. It hasn't changed in I think it's 3 years now. But what has changed underneath it is all of these different USB standards. So USB is evolving very, very quickly. And if you go on Wikipedia and look at USB, it will help you, because USB has started to change their nomenclature again and so forth. So really the big problem is what features you need. And by the way, Best Buy probably isn't going to be able to help you out because nobody can. So USB is now the latest standard USB is USB 4. Okay. And USB 4 standard includes Thunderbolt 3 technology inside of it. So USB is trying to put this together. So Thunderbolt was developed separately by Intel and others. And so it's been it's a real conundrum, and it's a real problem because there are things that you cannot do with say USB 3 type devices. So a basic hub type methodology doesn't work on Thunderbolt. Okay, you can't hub out Thunderbolt. You can daisy chain, you can go bing, 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 but you can't create a hub. And so you can do that with USB, but the Thunderbolt sorts of things don't work that way. It's the way the technology works, because inside of this cable is a bunch of electronics. So in the ends of these cables is a little computer chip that does some work to get the signal down the wire at these speeds. And the speeds are absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it's just amazing how fast Thunderbolt 3 is. So I've had Thunderbolt 3 for several years on the Macs I have used, and it makes a big difference in speed. Whether or not there's going to be a Thunderbolt 4 soon, I don't really know. So we're going to be there for a while. But if you're on Thunderbolt 3 and you're going to use Thunderbolt 3 devices, that little Thunderbolt Lightning there bolt and the 3 underneath it'll tell you what it'll do. Okay, so that's an introduction to a big mess, shall we say. It makes it really hard.
I'll also add, actually, OWC, Other World Computing, our friends at MacSales.com, Larry O'Connor did an amazing review of it. Thunderbolt 4 is here. They're already have pre-orders of their Thunderbolt 4 hubs, and that's pretty much one of the more exciting things that are coming out right now. There are actual hubs with the Thunderbolt connectors on it. So I'll put a link in the chat for everybody so they could see this video. Dave Hamilton and John F. Braun from the Mac ECAB actually did an interview with him, and he did a whole thing on the Thunderbolt 4 technology and did some great information about it. So,
okay, Bob, you have about 10 more minutes in your presentation. There's one more question. Did you want to answer?
Sure.
That?
Yeah, let's answer the question, and then let's go on to a couple of little demo things.
Okay. And Mike Eisenberg, if you can go ahead and unmute and ask your question about graphics.
So thank you for taking the question. What is the difference in the graphics cards between the Air and the Pro, and is it significant enough to make any difference?
Oh, okay. The base Air, the $999 Air, has 7 active GPUs. If you kick it up a notch, it has 8, and then they're all the same. They're identical.
between the Air and the Pro.
Between the Air and the Pro and the Mini. So it's 8 GPU cores. They are absolutely identical. The entry-level Air has 7. And Apple does not say what it is, but what most of us in the industry are assuming, it's called binning. And what that means is those chips did not pass all 8 cores working right. So they're able to use them with the 7 core. That's what we're thinking. Whether or not that's actually true or not, we don't know. The graphics performance on these things is amazing. It just is absolutely phenomenal.
Thanks, Bob.
No problem.
Okay, that's all the questions we have in the chat for now. Go ahead.
Okay. Let's do a couple of little things here. Let me do this. I want to share desktop 1, and excuse while this gets a little freaky for just a second, maybe. Is that sharing?
Yeah, we see
getting
your
a
screen.
share. Okay, it is.
Yep.
Okay. So here's a couple of interesting little things. So I am running macOS Big Sur 11.1 beta. This is an M1 MacBook Air. Chipset is M1. No speeds, nothing. Doesn't say anything about it. Memory, serial number, etc. Probably shouldn't be doing that. One of the things that's really interesting. Where is it? So graphics M1 built-in 8 cores. Okay. And what I was looking for. So here is the storage, 1 terabyte, and it reports it in, what looks like be fairly normal. Just looks very, very normal. What I was looking for is one other thing here. No, that isn't there. I don't see it. So anyway, this is an M1 Mac, and if I put my finger up here, we've been presenting here for 30 minutes, and right up underneath the display, it's just warm. Okay, it's just warm. I maybe you're pushing it just a little bit, but no, I haven't seen any performance issues. There's no noise, no fan, works just beautifully. And let's do this. Really want to shrink this a little bit so that control panel is not in there. So this is a photos library, and there's about 60,000 photos in here. All right. And these are, I did not load all of them because it's 3/4 of a terabyte of photos. So these photos are not loaded into the system at all. This is just the thumbnails. So it completed the load up of the photos library in about 15 or 18 minutes of pulling down the thumbnails. It may have been 30. I don't know. And so here's a photo that was taken in 2002 of my cat Snickers. And that photo is now loaded into the Mac, and we can play around, and it just absolutely flies. And I made it a black and white photo. I really didn't want to make it a black and white photo, but I made it a black and white photo, and I can now reset adjustments. And this thing just absolutely screams. There's nothing stops, nothing has any speed or performance that I can see. And one of the things that was really funny is one of the demos, and I'm going to see if I can do this demo here real quick. So we'll launch feedback, we'll launch preferences, we'll launch news, we'll launch podcasts, we'll launch notes, we'll launch calendar, we'll launch contacts, we'll launch maps, we'll launch Spark, and we'll do Launchpad. Okay, you see that? Boom, 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 boom. That, I dare you to try that on any other Mac that you've got out there. Okay, I'm done. So,
Okay, now here's
Nice
a
job.
question. Here's a question I have. If a person is actually buying a new Mac with the M1 chip,
Mhm.
how is that migration process? Is it still seamless going from the, let's say, the previous OS
so,
to the
so,
is
I do
the
my
migration system-
absolutely. So I do my migrations off of either Mac to Mac or whatever.
Mhm.
So I use my external. This is my Photos drive. So this drive cost me almost as much as the Mac a couple of years ago. Prices are coming way down. You don't need to do this. So this is a PCIe NVMe. Thunderbolt 3 drive. This thing just screams. Okay, it reads and writes at 2000, 2300, 2400, almost as fast. So I did a time machine backup, okay, to this device from my 2017 MacBook Air, okay, or MacBook iMac rather. Sorry, too many Macs. I backed up my Mac to this. I plugged this in to the new MacBook Air, and I said migrate it except for the photos, because I had the full photos library, which is 800 gig, which I didn't want on the MacBook Air because I don't need them on there. I just want the thumbnails. And literally in 8 minutes it migrated operating system, all the apps, everything in 8 minutes. Now that's partially this thing and how fast the new MacBook Airs are. Seamless migration, no issues whatsoever.
Okay, we have one last question here from Frank Sabatini. Frank, if you want to go ahead and unmute, and we'll make this our last question for this segment.
Right. I assume that the seamlessness is because what you copied was Big Sur. Does
Yes.
the A1 chip run Catalina?
Okay, M1.
The M1, I'm sorry.
M1. A1. M1 does not run Catalina. It is Big Sur.
Only. Okay.
Yeah. That's the Macs. They all come with Big Sur. Big Sur is required for M1 for the M1.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Frank, for asking your question. And is there any other questions for Bob right now?
I've got one. What happens if you're migrating from something running Catalina? Your old one runs Catalina and you want to migrate to the new M1 chip.
That'll work. No problem. Migration system will do that. No problem.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Bob Fairburn, and for getting us up to date on the M1 Max and also Big Sur. Now we're going to turn it over to Jim Bakken to talk about membership benefits. Go ahead, Jim. You have to unmute yourself, Jim.
Okay, thanks very much. Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Bodkin, for those who don't know me. I've been a member of SCAU and its predecessor, the Northwest of Us, for over 22 years, and a member of the board of directors for almost 20 years. So I know a little bit about membership here. That Davis asked me to speak a little bit about it, the benefits of being a member of SCAU. Well, all of us know about the normal perks of membership, like the user analysis of all the latest Apple devices and products, and our special interest groups or SIGs in iPhone and photography. The great programs we have on how to use your Mac and iPad and iPhone and Apple Watch, and even the latest views of Apple and the Apple News. We have things like lessons on security and networking and backing up. And then we have our great location and the camaraderie of the members which are now virtual until we can distance ourselves from the COVID pandemic. But today I'd really like to talk about a special part of membership, about members helping members. A little background on myself. I'm an electrical engineer by training and a Mac user since 1984, 85. When I evaluated a new Mac for my company, I borrowed a demo from Apple for 30 days. And after about 90 days, they kept requesting it back. And so the fourth time they almost came and got it. I fell in love with the Mac and had to buy one myself. So I'm familiar with the history of Macs and have had about 4, 5, maybe 6 different models. My current primary Mac is a 2009 Mac Pro that's been upgraded to be more like a 2012 model with dual processors and more RAM and USB 3.1. And the most important part was the 3 terabyte Fusion drives that I have in there. These were used in all the recent Macs until last year. So it's a technology that's proven. But for those who don't know what a Fusion drive is, it's a logical combination of a large hard drive and a super fast SSD. The benefit is you can get a large, cheaper hard drive that's fast. So as a nature photographer, I've been taking a lot of images, and therefore I need a lot of storage. So my goal in October, this 2 months ago, was the upgrade of these 3 terabyte Fusion drives into a 4 terabyte Fusion drive. And this involved, storing off all the data that's on the drive and then getting a new drive and formatting it and then going to terminal and logically connecting it and then loading back all the new drives. And this was going rather well up until I was going to actually boot it all up and it wouldn't boot. So, what do you do? So I Googled all the solutions that I could find and tried different things. I used all the startup routines that I knew and even went to 2 separate 2-hour sessions with the geniuses at the Apple Store. The problem was, since I couldn't boot the computer, I couldn't run their diagnostics. And since I couldn't log in to the Apple system, I couldn't download their new versions or the new versions of their old operating systems, which they took offline and now only have available through the internal Apple network. So I was stuck. I tried to resolve it myself. I tried to have Apple Genius resolve it, and now where do you go? So I called some SCAU resources, Bob Fairbairn, excuse me, and Margaret Martin, 2 of my go-to experts there, and asked for their advice. Well, Margaret offered several tips and articles how I could force a reboot, and this got me up and running on the previous operating system. And then with Bob, excuse me, he told me some sites where I could download some updated operating systems, for the former versions. So I could download that and get up to date and all. And this allowed me to get the 4 terabyte Fusion drive operational and reloaded. So Bob really said he didn't trust the Fusion drive. So he also suggested that I upgrade to the 4 terabyte SSD. And I did that, and he was right. It was a good solution. So I know this is all a little technical for some of the members, but the message here is that through SCAU, excuse me, SCAU members, I was able to resolve a very sticky Mac problem that was beyond the scope of what you can get from the Apple Geniuses. So here I am up and running on my upgraded Mac Pro. It's stable, it's fast, and it's really thanks to the members helping members ethic of the group. People like Bob and Margaret do all these things for pay normally, but since I was only asking for directions, they were able to help me out. So this is one of the many benefits of membership in SCAU. And now I'll turn it over to Davis to talk about the community.
Hello, everyone.
All right, go ahead, Davis.
Yeah, go ahead, George.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, Davis is our program director here at the Suburban Chicago Apple Users Group, and I'll go ahead and let him go right into his presentation, talking about our online community.
First of all, I want to say, Jim, thank you so much for that story. You know, at a time where we are separated and have to communicate remotely, stories like that are really important. And I wanted to just, you know, sort of dovetail Jim's story and comment about membership benefits by talking a little bit about one of the most important communication pieces that we have in our group today, and that is our community board. So I'm going to share my screen here for just a second. Let me open up a couple things here real quick. And let's see, we'll open up the desktop here, and I will move here, go here. Oh, got to go back. Now you're seeing all my stuff before, and there you go. Okay, can everybody see this blue slide that I have here?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. So, you know, at a time when we are dealing with the pandemic, we cannot get together in person. One of the most important benefits and tools that we have for all of our members is our community board. And for those of you that may not be aware of the community board or be an active member on the community board, this presentation today is meant to do a couple of things, but primarily remind all of you that we have access to a communication tool that gives everyone in our group 24/7 access to the most critical updates, the most qualified and curated talking points, and everything that's happening in the Apple and tech world that will impact our group and our membership. So that's what my short presentation is about today. Before I get into some of the details, though, I would like to talk about a couple of updates regarding content and what we're doing as the pandemic and our remote content delivery continues. From a membership perspective, we are creating twice as much content now virtually than we were when we were getting together in person at the ASA. We are meeting twice a month with meetings that are almost always as long, if not a little bit longer than our old meetings. So that's really important that we all be active and take advantage of the content that we're creating. We have a number of speakers that are coming in from across the country, and the catalog of content that we're sharing to our membership is also growing. There's a bunch of new things that are coming up next year that I'm really excited about. I'm not going to talk about much of that today, except to say that there are things coming. But one of the things that we just released recently, and I want to make certain that all of you in the membership have received this, is a new monthly wrap up. And I want to just, you know, take my hat off to Jeff and Frank, who are part of the promotions and program team that have put this really great tool together. Because we're virtual, some of us cannot always attend these meetings. We have other things that come up, family parties, and well, hopefully not family parties, but family gatherings and those kind of things. But this tool then provides you all the links, a reminder of the topics that were covered, as well as upcoming topics in a quick format that offer links to all of that content if you want to watch it after the fact. And it's just a really great way of reminding everyone who's a part of this group of everything that we're doing on a monthly basis. So that'll be coming out monthly. And if you have not received that, please check your email. It is also available on the community board, which I'll talk about in just a second. And then the other thing that I want to talk about is your response to surveys are critically important. As we move forward and continue to develop more content, we don't know what you want unless you tell us. So let us know. Don't be afraid to share your ideas, your thoughts. If you want to participate as a speaker, we'd love to hear that. If you want to hear more about a certain topic, we want to hear that too, because again, we want to drive content that's important to all of you as the members. So with that little plug there, let's jump into the community board. So today we're talking about our community site. This is the address, community.myscau.org is the address. And the reason this community board is so critically important really boils down to 3 reasons. Unlike other platforms where you would share information, either going to a website on your own or social media websites like Twitter and Facebook and other platforms, our community board is a 24/7 membership-driven site. It's curated. It also, because it's by invitation only, is completely secure, and it is valuable, integrity-driven information. Nothing goes up there that is not reviewed by the administrators, and you also have the opportunity to exchange and reply like you would on a normal site in a curated and secure environment. And again, you must be invited. So we control who has access to this community very closely as a way of maintaining the value and the integrity of the system and your trust in the information that's being shared here. Okay, so when you request a login, the email that you want to use, if you don't already have access to this site, is webmaster@myscau.org. And you want to title that email SCAU Community User Request. That will alert all of the administrators. There are 4 of us right now, myself, George, Dave, and Bob. One of us will respond and invite you back, send you an invitation email, but we'll look for that title in order to make sure that we expedite your request as soon as possible. Typically, the replies to this email will come in about 24 to 48 hours, depending upon the time of week that you send in the email. When you send that email, the reply that you get will be this. Now, the thing that I want to show you here is that it will come from suburban Chicago Apple users. I don't know if you guys can see that. I've sort of spotlighted that. What you also want to look for from a security perspective is that it comes from the community website and also a recognizable member of the group leadership. You will also then see this link down here at the bottom. That is the link that you want to click to complete the login. So this is an example of the email that you'll be receiving. So really important that you look for this in your junk email, your trash, any other folders, unless sometimes it doesn't hit your inbox correctly. So if you're looking for this email, this is what you want to look for and the highlights that you want to see from there. Once you click on that link, this is what the page looks like that you will be sent to. Now I've set up a demo account, but a couple of things that are really important here. Number one, you'll see who you were invited by again. That's a really important security feature. You'll also have the opportunity to use the default username that has been assigned to you, or you can change it and it will verify its availability within the community at that point. So if you want to be known by, I'm sorry, don't know what just happened there. Go back here. All right. So if you want to be known by, Johnny McJohn as an example, right? You can type that in and it will verify your availability. You can also put your own name in here as well and also set the password and then accept invitation. Now, I just want to quickly talk about a couple of things today. I want to talk about setting up your profile notifications, these few items here, because setting up your profile, and even if you're a current user of the community, going in and checking these settings are going to be really important, because this is how the two-way communication is created and curated by you as a user. So I'm going to jump out really quickly here and jump into this demo account that I have set up here in the community. All right. Can everybody see the community board? I just want to make sure everybody can see that correctly.
Yes, we can.
Great. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly run through navigation here really quickly. This little icon here will always take you back to this dashboard or home screen. And this is what the home screen looks like. Okay. And I'm going to run through a couple of these really important icons. This is obviously your search feature. And you can search by virtually anything on the community, topics, users, particular posts, categories, whatever you want. This is where you would go to search. Now, where this gets a little tricky are these two icons here. So this is the traditional hamburger button, which is the menu button that brings up all of the details. The thing that's missing on this menu and a little bit confusing is that there's nothing in here about your profile. That's where you will want to come in and click on your icon or your avatar button here. And then this menu will pop up. Now, what's interesting here, and I don't know if you guys can see this on your screens, but there's basically a little line here, 3 tabs, right? A notifications tab, a bookmarks tab, and a messages tab. I'm going to talk about those in just a few seconds. But what's not really clear is that your name here, right here, is also a tab. It's when you click this name here that you bring up your user information. That's a really critical point here that I want to cover, because now this takes you to a new menu that will allow you to customize and curate your own profile. So I'm just going to click on that. Okay. So here's my individual page. The first area right here, you'll see a summary, and this will bring up a summary of all the things that are important to me and my activity on the community. Here's my activity. Now this is a demo account, so I don't have any activity here, but you can find all your activity here. And then we get into notifications. These are notifications that you will get, like awards from the board for activity and those kinds of things. And then one of the things I also said is that you have two-way communication with membership. Anyone who's active on this board, you can communicate with a direct private message. This is where you can see all of those messages, and you will also get messages from the board directly. So here, my first message here is a greetings from the board. Here are my badges and awards. You get more badges the more active you are. And then I want to talk really quickly about this one here, preferences. And this is where the nitty-gritty really starts, okay? So you can customize your username here. You can change your profile, your display name, but you can also add your email. Now the initial email right here will be the email that you use for the invitation, but you can also add alternate emails as well, depending upon if that's your choice or not. You can send it to a number of different emails. I have a number of different email addresses, so you can choose and customize this as much as possible. You can also reset your password. You can enact two-factor authentication if you're concerned about that. And one of the things that I love is it will also show you the most recent devices and general location that you used for security purposes. Really, really important. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go to, let's see, where am I going to go? Here we go. For a profile, you can put in a little bit of a bio about you. You can verify your time zone, location, website, profile header. I'm not going to touch about that, but you can really customize this to a real social sort of representation of who you are online. For emails, these are email notifications. I would encourage all of you as users to go into this page and double check all of your settings here, because this is how the board will communicate with you in terms of new updates, new information, and you can set how often you want to be notified and where to these settings. So here you can send me an email. So if someone messages you on the board, if you're not in the board, you can set it to always email you, or you can change those, you can change those settings to only when away, never, whatever you want, right? You can change your mentions here. You can get notified of previous replies. But I want to talk really quickly about the activity summary. If you are away from the board for any particular period of time, you can ask the system to send you a weekly email or change the timeline every 30 minutes, hourly. I mean, that'd be crazy, but daily, weekly, month, I mean, however long you want to get an email sent to you on all the activity that's happening on the community board, so that you get a summary of things that you may be missing or may not be following directly. Really important setting. You also have this mailing list mode here. I don't use that because I like this weekly summary myself, but this will override the activity summary. I actually like the activity summary a little bit better. I think it's a bit more user-friendly to read. Notifications. One of the things that's also great about this is that the system will send you notifications within a certain period of time. So if you're out of the community for a certain period of time, you can have notifications sent to you, right? And notifications on the board, and I'll talk about that in a minute, that you can also customize. You can track topics. You can also set it when you post to a particular topic, you can set it to automatically track and notify you of updates and replies. And also ones that you like. And you can also disable live notifications completely across the board. You can also set certain categories that you watch. So if there's particular categories that you're really interested in more than others, you can customize that here on this page. You can also follow or mute specific users. Not that anybody would want to do that here, right? And then you can also set your theme. You can set the font size, you can set the color, you can set all those things. So for example, if you like dark mode better, you can set dark mode here. Really cool things. The key thing is that all of these settings though are in this sort of really sort of obscure hidden menu here. So that was the thing that I wanted to make sure that we talked about, all right? When you click on the category, there's a couple things that I want to make sure that you're aware of. This area right here, right? This area right here, this blue area, this is what's known as the banner. If you are looking for club, universal global club announcements, big things that are coming up, you will typically find that area here. This is where we'll have an announcement for the new flyers, new updates regarding upcoming meetings and SIGs. That information will typically be here. Sometimes you will also have, like we have a pinned post here within a particular topic, right? And you can see that, you know, Masked Bob posted this right here, right? You'll see that pinned to the top of a particular category. But this line here is, this is everything that has happened on the community since I last visited. And I can filter that if I want. So it's really great stuff. If I click on new, these are all the new posts that have happened that are either unread or since my last visit. Here are the top categories. These are the most popular categories that are occurring right now on the community. And I think this is set for these are just in order of age. Here are categories. There's 75 uncategorized, 1 new. Okay. So what I wanted to do today was just make sure that each of you as users understood how to customize the two-way communication, because at a time when we're separated, this type of curated communication is more important than ever. This really is a supplement to the Q&A that we offer at virtually every meeting that we conduct. So I wanted to make sure that, again, everyone as users, you have an active account that you're contributing to. This type of tool is only as good as we use it. So the more activity, the more members that are using this on an ongoing basis, the more valuable this tool chest will become. And I will tell you, I have learned things here that I have not learned anywhere else online, at Today in Apple, any other sort of educational community. This is the first place that I go, and if I don't find it here, then I go search elsewhere. So like I said, I just wanted to make sure that I covered that a little bit for you. We will be doing creating a supplemental login video for the community as well. And that will be up on the updated website as soon as it's available. And then I see here from Michael that we have the a request about for the email to send requests to join the user group. That is webmaster@myscau.org. And I can share that screen again if you want.
We also have a question from Marcia Hobson. Marcia, if you could unmute and ask your question.
Okay, I just wanted to make a comment first that when I joined the community, I went through the training wizard, and it was really nice, and it made it interesting to learn how to use the community. So I just wanted to encourage anybody who hasn't really used it or skipped by the wizard that you go through that, and it will really teach you how to use it and take advantage of the features of the community. And then I'd like Davis to show us how to get back to it, the wizard, if we skipped it when we signed in.
Oh, sure. Yeah, hold on one sec. Let me get back. I'm not sharing my screen. Let me get back in here. Oh, here we go. Hold on. Let me escape out of this. Okay, can you guys see this?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so when you're in this hamburger button area, this sort of menu button, this is where you will find a lot of that information. So a couple of things, always check the about page, all right? Really important there. This will give you an update of all the information regarding the supplemental information regarding the community. The FAQ, I would encourage all of you to read this because it's really important, because it talks about what the guidelines for our community are. You know, we talk about things being secure and being curated. This is our value system. This is where, you know, we lay the rules down of this community, right? Talking about terms of service and how it's powered by our membership. So please read that FAQ. And then let's see here. Hold on one second here. What else did I want to look at? Keyboard shortcuts. If you are a keyboard fan, there are a number of keyboard shortcuts here. All right, so I want to show you that.
Also, isn't that that wizard that she was talking about? Isn't that in the email that when you initial go in? I believe that you should have that email. I would think. Well, no, I'm talking about in your inbox, your mailbox here in the community.
Yeah, hold on one sec here. I think
that wizard is actually in there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So here is when you open up that greetings email, okay, you'll get the DiskBot email. I would encourage you to read this because this talks about your abilities. Again, it takes us to the civilized community behavior, right? This will walk you through that. That greeting email is not deleted by automatically. So that should always be in your messages section, right? Under read the guidelines, and you'll get an award, by the way, for reading it if you like those kind of things. So it's kind of like the Apple Watch of our community. Any other questions?
I want to do a shameless plug. Go back to the area where you actually set up your notifications for different categories.
Sure.
So are you saying that going back to the greeting email is the best way to get back to the wizard?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Is this where you want me to be, George?
There was that one area where you can set the watch for the different categories or different topics.
Right here.
There you go. I just want to let you guys know, because I post a lot of deals out in the community. So you might want to set up the deal section to be watched, because you know I'm your tech miser. And like, for instance, I just posted on the community about the Mac Mini M1 computer is discounted on Amazon. That's right here. I posted it. So if you set this to be watched, you get your notifications.
Yeah, one of the things we will be adding, by the way, a category for membership feedback and topic suggestions. That's one thing that is missing from the community now, because we're so dependent upon this type of tool to make sure that we have all member suggestions and feedback coming into one place. We'll be adding a topic category for that as well. So that's what I will be looking at to develop new content going forward. So by all means, if there's any one reason or any two reasons to join the community, we're posting discount information, and we're posting, you know, your ability to communicate with, you know, and really influence what content is being created by the group for the membership. Anything else? Any other questions?
I'm answering some questions in the chat. I'll just verbally say it as well. I think there was a little bit of confusion if for some reason you didn't get a invite to join the community. You should have got it. For some of you that are new, Michael is asking. Then yes, send the email to the webmaster at myscau.org, and just in the title of the message to say community request. And that will allow us to one of the administrators send you a link, and I have sent it to everybody that's in this call today. So everybody should be a member if they aren't already. Please do send that email to the webmaster, the webmaster email address, and just say that you need to be added to the community, and we'll send you an invite right away.
Yeah, here is the email here: webmaster@myscau.org.
So you guys verify before you add somebody to the
yes.
Oh yes. We always verify, and we verify from our membership list, and if as long as they're a member. We have a few guests like Sheeta Hunter. We added her as an invitee. Sometimes like people we feel that are going to be a very good active type of person. we'll invite folks like that, but you have to be a member as far as that. Beyond that, we may invite presenters that they might be interested in being involved with our community. We would do something like that, but other than that, it is restricted to just members.
And if you want to be a member, you can go to our website and click on the membership section and request to become a member. We would love to have more people.
And by the way, I want to thank all the new members that have recently joined. We've had a number of new members join recently, and I just want to formally thank all of them for joining, and we hope you're getting a lot of value out of the group.
Well, and I heard everybody talk about members, but nobody told the members how to join. So I guess I'll take that on. You go to myscau.org and click on membership and actually join. We would love to have anyone who would like to join us in our online community and become a member of SCAU.
Awesome. Any other questions, guys? Well, if not, I just want to say thank you so much for giving me a few minutes today. I really appreciate it, and I hope you're enjoying all the content. I do want to say something. If no one noticed today, we gave our president Dave a break today from presenting, and so thanks to Bob and Jim, and thank you all for presenting today. I really appreciate that. I mean, we've got a number of really great topics coming up. One more thing that I do want to mention today. It's really important, all of you in the membership, read the announcement flyer carefully. We have got some speakers that are on the schedule from the West Coast. So we'll be pushing back our meetings an hour later for some of our meetings in order to accommodate the time change, because our start time is really early if they're from California. So in order to accommodate them and allow them to sort of, present at a normal time, we push back our meetings. So be sure that you are checking the start times of our meetings. Some of those will change to accommodate our speakers.
Is that
I'll make sure that
1 hour.
I'm sorry.
2 hours is the West Coast, not 1 hour.
Correct, but we'll be and it's meeting specific. But so far the ones that I've scheduled that have West Coast speakers, we're pushing back our start meeting to 10 a.m. rather than 9.
Okay.
And I'll make sure that's stressed. Let's make sure that's stressed in the email blasts that come out and highlight, notice the time change. And when you register, it will, if you add it to your calendar, it should put it to 10 a.m.
Yeah, we don't want anybody to miss, because these are really great speakers. I mean, we got some great stuff coming up. We just, if you can attend it, don't miss that because of the time change.
So will the invite on our calendar be updated with the time change? Because I go by the calendar.
Yeah, I'm currently updating the calendar. The calendar will have the time change based on each meeting. Yes, the time itself will be changed. The invite, unfortunately, because there's so many invites on the calendar, the only way we can get you the invite link is by sending it through the email blast.
Yeah, and Dave, could I just say one other thing too? I did get a question from the membership about why we have to continuously re-register, and I appreciate the question about that. However, one of the things that is critically important is we are trying to prevent Zoom bombing. We are completely dependent upon virtual meetings right now. So by you re-registering every time, it gives us a couple of benefits. One is we're able to track who on our membership is actually participating. Right, that's the first thing. Secondly, we can track guests and potential members. But third, and probably the most important, is it allows us to curate and control who is in these meetings from a security perspective, because the last thing that we want is Zoom bombing.
And I'll also add that we're going to be sending a survey actually at the end of this meeting today at 10:30. It's about to be sent automatically here in about 4 minutes. If you could definitely fill out that survey. We're going to be doing that each time for not only the main meetings, but the iPhone SIG as well as the photography SIG. Again, like David says, we really want to find out what makes you guys tick, what's important to you, what's not important. We love to hear the comments. We want to make these virtual meetings even better than they already are. And we've got a great platform right now, and we're giving you, every other week main meetings, and you got monthly SIGs. So it's important for us to find out what you're thinking when it comes to that. Davis, you did mention the monthly wrap up newsletter as well, did you not? You're muted.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, be sure to look for that monthly wrap up. If for nothing else, it gives you an opportunity to have direct access to all of the links to the content that's available online, because we do record all these meetings. So if you miss something, you have access to it again. Secondly, if you just want to rewatch something, you have access to it. So it's really important that you look for that, because it really does outline all the content that we're creating on a monthly basis. And really, seriously, Jeff, Frank, myself, we work really hard on this wrap up. So we want to make sure that it's something that you're using and that you find valuable. And we've got some updates to that coming too. So more to come, but that's going to become a really important tool going forward.
Excuse me, Tom, you have your hand up. You got 1 minute. Go right now on mute.
Okay. This is just a quick tip. I bought a few products recently. But if you want to use if you ever want to have your purchases credited to the SCAU so we get a better discount, or if you want to get a discount on things that are discounted, if you call the business number at Deerfield, the one woman, her name is Renee. She really knows what she's doing, and she won't give you the kind of perplexed look that I've gotten a number of times. And if anybody wants her phone,
you mean Deer Park?
Deer Park, yes, Deer Park, right.
Thank you, Tom, for that information.
And of course,
yeah, if we could actually post that.
All the stores.
Yeah, we can post that in our community. I'm going to
put that in the community, Tom.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap us up, but also there is a special, when we stop recording, there'll be a special afterglow. Just want to let everyone know that our next upcoming meeting will be on December the 5th. That will be our regular meeting of this type. Our iPhone SIG meeting will be on December the 8th. Excuse me, iOS. It's not iPhone anymore, just iOS.
Yeah, it's iPhone.
It's not just iPhone. It's everything iOS. And then our photo SIG will be on December the 16th. And then we'll have another regular meeting on the 19th of December. Don't forget, if you're not a member and you're watching this recorded on YouTube, please join us at myscau.org, because we'd love to have you. And with that, as the new elected vice president, I just want to say thank you and have a good